Well, very warm welcome to you this afternoon for our audience with Angela Hartnett. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today and particularly thank our sponsor CCS for supporting us in this initiative, a series of interviews with leading chefs. I'd also like to say how grateful we are to Westminster Kingsway for hosting us, a fantastic college, and we're very proud to be associated with them. So, but anyway, starting with you, Angela, thank you so much for joining us today and for sparing some time from your busy life.
Early days, I like the idea of running a restaurant. I like the idea of being able to sort of close it when you wanted to and have long holidays and stuff like that. It hasn't quite worked out the same thing. And just running a business, and I was quite good as a kid cooking. You know, I came from a family that food was quite important. I wouldn't use the word foodies, it was just naturally you bought good food, you know, and you ate good food. And then I went off to college, studied history, which has really no relevance to cooking. But I wanted to go off to college. And then after that started working in pubs, a few brasseries, a couple of bars, and then got serious about it in Midsummer House, which at the moment is obviously is run by Daniel Clifford. At the time it was run by another guy called Hans Schweitzer. And so I started working for him as a waitress and then managed to sort of convince him that I was going to come into the kitchen and could I come in, and that's how it really started snowballing from there. I enjoyed doing history at school, and I did want to do a degree because all my friends had gone off to university and stuff. My brother was at university, and I liked the idea of not necessarily working straight away. So, and I thought, you never know what's around the corner, so it's good to go and have some more education. I'm a great believer in education. I think that's a good thing. At the time, if you think about it, that's just when Gordon started. So it was maybe 91 or something like that, I think. There weren't that many restaurants around. You know, you had Nico's, you had the Gavroche, you had Richard Corrigan, Eric Chavot, The Square, obviously, and Gordon, you know, so there wasn't what we have now, this massive influx of restaurants everywhere. So there was a lot more, there was a few restaurants to choose from. Not many people wanted to work 6 days a week, so it was actually easier in a way to get in there than it probably is now in some respects. And I applied for loads. I applied for Sally Clark. At the time I applied for Carluccio's as well. He had Neal Street restaurant. So I applied for a lot, but and at the time Gordon was becoming the sort of the chef in town, and it just seemed like a great place to work. You know, I did a whole day there, 7 in the morning till midnight, and I came away really buzzing and just thought, I want to work for this guy. You did get better. You know, the first 3 months were horrendous because I just every day was getting shouted at and screamed at. And, you know, and I would literally in my head, I'd be thinking, Monday, no bollockins, Tuesday, then I think, can I get to Wednesday or Thursday? And then, you know, and I eventually did a whole week and I was like, results, you know, this is progress. But yeah, but I made, you know, some of the guys I've met there are friends for life, you know, Marcus, Mark, you know, Damien, you know, there's some real camaraderie there. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here without Gordon. I'll stay that till the end of time. You know, he was a great platform to work off. You know, he gave me ample opportunities, and I think if you showed you were willing and keen and you showed your ambition, you know, Gordon was happy to sort of support that, and he did. You know, he gave me my restaurant. I couldn't have gone into the Connaught standalone as a person by myself, and you know, I wouldn't have had the finances to buy Murano at the time. So, you know, he was huge in that respect, and in lots of opportunities to do loads of different things. You know, we went out to cook for the troops in Afghanistan. You know, I went to numerous food events, you know, from Singapore down to Aspen, you know, all these different things because Gordon was the name. And I think, you know, my brother sort of described it well once when he said, you know, Gordon's like this. And Angela just needs to follow. Soon she'll decide it's time to, you know, fly off somewhere else. But for the moment, you know, while it's going well, just enjoy it. We were at Petrus, and you know, that was another hard kitchen. You know, so we were, Marcus, we got the first star at L'Orangère, and then we maintained the star at Petrus at St James's, and I still probably to this day think Marcus was cooking some of his best food there. You know, he had all that issues with the AA at the time, whether he was supposed to get 5 stars or 4 stars, and he was in the kitchen every day, you know, exactly like Gordon was when he was at the Aubergine. And then from there it was a case of, and then that's when Gordon and Chris started to build all the restaurants, and Dubai came on the scene. and Claridge's came on the scene. So, you know, obviously Mark Sargent had been working for Gordon at Royal Hospital Road, and so it was his turn. And it was because you were the next in line after the, if you like, Mark Askew and Marcus, it was like, who are the next chef? So it was, Sarge obviously went to Claridge's, and then Dubai opened. And that's when Gordon said, would I go and open Dubai? And it was a great opportunity. Prior to that, we'd opened Amaryllis with David Dempsey. Up in Scotland, yeah, and then after Dubai, that's when obviously Gordon and Chris made all the deals with Blackstone, and that's when the Connaught came on the table, and it was the next, you know, step, you know, and it, you know, they're not going to suddenly take someone who hasn't opened a restaurant; they're going to use everyone in their group, you know. 2 restaurants. Jason was in charge of the fine dining, and I had Nathan in charge of the casual, and then we had obviously room service, afternoon tea, and all the rest of it. But our problem was we opened literally a week after 9/11, so the whole of the Middle East crashed. You know, there was all the holiday that, you know, all this projection of tourists coming over was just dismissed out of the water because 9/11 happened, and, you know, everything. We still had a lot of people come, but the business wasn't there in all these business hotels, so it really took a lot of time for us to establish itself. And to be honest, it probably didn't happen in that first year. I think Jason got into it in the next 2 or 3 years. And then it was about learning the culture. I mean, that was the biggest thing. You know, we had every different, you know, Indonesian, Filipino, Indian, Sri Lankan, Bangladeshi, a huge range of chefs working for us, all with different abilities and how they could do it. But we had a great team, and it was great fun. And then we had to then establish, again, it's finding out what your market is, because although Dubai isn't essentially very big, people would not travel from Jumeirah Beach down to the creek. You know, even though we might have been doing some of the best food, they were still like they wanted something on their doorstep, or they wanted it casually. So, you know, and people were very fickle. I loved the Connaught. I thought it was absolutely a brilliant hotel, and I still to this day think it is. I think it's one of the classic, iconic hotels of London. The customer base were phenomenal. I mean, we cooked for people like Henry Kissinger, Lauren Bacall, you know, Sir Michael Caine, Paul McCartney. You know, the people they had through the door were as amazing. And you forget the Connaught in the 70s and 80s. What you have now is a hotel system where you ring up or you go online. You were invited to stay at the Connaught. You know, that's what it was like. They would say, I would like to stay, and then the hotel manager would decide if they were going to allow you to stay. You did learn, and it put me in good stead for Limewood and the hotels now. The one thing, they had a very good hotel manager at the time was Anthony Lee, who's now at the Café Royal. And the one thing you forget in a hotel, or cooks get very much like this, and Rick Stein, I think, says it, when he first used to get chefs in for a stage, he'd ask them to cook scrambled eggs. And what would be incredible is you'd say to a guy, put them on the fish and meat, and they could cook fish and meat for 180 covers and without batting an eyelid. Put them on breakfast and they would sink. And the mentality we had to get into everyone's head was the people who come for breakfast, they're coming for lunch, they're coming for dinner, and they're staying, and they've got to be treated the same.